It really cannot be overstated how detrimental the Biden regime was and continues to be to this country. You know, you could say about the auto pen pardons, and you could say about inflation, and you could say that about so many different topics, but most especially on the topic of illegal aliens, because not only was he allowing in record amounts, I mean, I know conservative estimates are like 11 million illegal aliens that he's let into this country in his time period. I believe the estimates that are closer to 20. All right. But it's not just the illegal aliens who are flooding into this country. It's also the reports of over 300,000 unaccompanied children who were just like lost by the previous administration. Just nobody knows where they are. Nobody can find them. And I know last month there was an ORR report that details that there were nearly 65,000 reports of concern about these unaccompanied alien children that were just ignored, just totally dismissed by the Biden administration. And I want to discuss the latest with all of these unaccompanied children, because again, it's not their fault, guys. It's not their fault that they were brought here, that they were trafficked here, that they had coyotes come and dump them off with someone, I don't know who. But I want to discuss this with Allie Hopper. She is president of Guard Against Trafficking. And of course, Dr. Jarrod Sadulski. He is vice president of Guard Against Trafficking. You two have been just on the front lines of, focusing on solving this issue of human trafficking, specifically with these unaccompanied children. And I thank you for coming. Welcome to the show. But I want to...
Thanks for.
Yeah, thank you. I want to ask you guys, Dr. Sadulski, I'll start with you. What is the status of all of these unaccompanied, illegal children that have not been found, that were just lost, poof, like just vanished into thin air, according to the Biden administration? Has there been any headway made on them?
Well, this shows the crisis that the Biden-Harris administration created. So, since the inauguration, Homeland Security Investigations has conducted an investigation, a well-being check on 100,000 of the 324,000 children that were reported as unaccounted for. Out of that, they could only locate 5,000, which means 95,000 children are completely unaccounted for, and there's nowhere else to look. The information the Biden Harris regime accepted from sponsors, it's been discovered that 70% of it was fraudulent.
70%?
That's correct.
So clearly, nobody in this administration was going back and double checking anything, vetting any of these people, any of the information to make sure that it was actually accurate. They just were like, here, sign this paper. I don't really care what you put on it. I'm not going to check it as long as there's the I's dotted and the T's crossed. I'm just going to let you take some random kid that may or may not be yours. Do I have that right?
You do. So they were accepting documentation via text and WhatsApp. And so they would accept a driver's license or a photo ID. They would provide an address. What ORR under the Biden regime would do is check to see through the post office if that's actually an address. And if so, then the child was sent. We discovered a case that a child was child was going to be sent to a home. An actual Office of Refugee Resettlement caseworker actually went to the home, discovered that the person portraying themselves as the sponsor had MS-13 visible tattoos. And there were also others in the house that appeared to be gang members. This caseworker reported that up to the leadership at the time under the Office of Refugee Resettlement and was overruled. That child was sent to this MS-13 member to be found, I believe, 3 months later with his pants around his ankles, dead, with an adult male next to him passed out.
Oh my gosh. Well, Ali, I wanna bring you into the conversation as well. Has the Trump administration, I mean, I know that they're trying to follow up, as Dr. Jarrod just said, but have they made any other moves? Like, can you tell the contrast between the last administration and this administration when it comes to taking these types of things seriously?
Yeah, there's a huge contrast. Absolutely. So the prior administration failed to conduct DNA testing when a child was crossing with an unknown adult to verify that that adult was indeed their parents. When you remove DNA testing, when you don't have any meaningful background checks done with the sponsors, and when you're not even doing proper ID checks, that's that created this mess entirely, and taxpayers were paying for it. Cartels knew that they could exploit our services and use our services as transportation hubs to be able to get unaccompanied children from point A to point B being the sponsor. And now we know that some of the children are no longer with the sponsor, because when HSI asked, some of the sponsors said either the child never showed up or strange men took them and they were no longer to be heard from again.
I obviously you guys have you have a lot to do on your hands with all of these children that, again, they're just missing. We just have no idea where they are, no leads. Clearly, there's a lot on your hands. But I guess I would assume that you have seen a lot of decrease in new cases, maybe because the border has now been essentially shut down, Allie?
Yeah, so there has been a natural decrease at the border, especially when it comes to unaccompanied children. Now, the Trump administration has a huge task to find these unaccounted for children, and also to make sure that the criminals and bad actors that are illegally here in this country are deported fastly, because they are impacting the lives and the well-being of American citizens here. And take the Lake and Riley situation. We had Van Hollen, who wouldn't even sign the Lake and Riley Act, but Rachel Morin was one of his constituents. Her family was one of his constituents. So when you see lawmakers like Van Hollen flying to El Salvador to visit Garcia, to visit a criminal, but you're not prioritizing your constituents and the well-being of your citizens, that just shows the stark contrast between the Biden-Harris administration and the Trump administration.
Yeah, Dr. Sadulski, what do you want the viewers to, what's the big takeaway here that because I know that we talk about a lot of issues, and a lot of the time I think that it leaves people feeling really helpless because they're hearing this, and this is all just really, really disgusting information to have and not do anything with. Is there anything that they can be doing to advocate for these kids, to raise awareness? Like what can the audience do to try to help in any way, shape, or form? I realize they can't go knocking on doors, but what can they do to help? Because this is just, a human rights issue, honestly, happening here in America. I know we talk about human rights issues in Iran and in Russia and in all these other places that people want to talk about. And yet here we are right here on our very own doorstep in America. We have human rights abuses happening. And the Democrats just seem to think it's all okay in the name of bringing in illegal aliens.
Absolutely. Great question. So, what we have here is one of the largest humanitarian issues of our lifetime. And what people can do is can become aware. They can continue to research the things that we've said here today. They can go out in their communities, they can go to work. And whenever they see something that's suspicious, when they see something that a child that's being coached on what to say, a child that appears to be malnourished, a child that appears to be not being taken care of properly, to report it, because that simple phone call may be enough to save that child's life.
Yeah. Last question here, Allie. You deal with all human trafficking, correct? Not just illegal alien or unaccompanied minor trafficking. You deal with all human trafficking. How much of the trafficking that you guys see in this country is specifically illegal?
That would be very difficult to quantify, especially with the open border that exacerbated the issue. There are cases of domestic trafficking. The American public do need to be aware that there are situations that occurred domestically, regardless of the border being open or closed. So Dr. Sadulski is exactly right. We need to raise awareness. Parents need to have those important conversations with their children. They need to know what human trafficking looks like. They need to know what grooming looks like, the sexual grooming of their children. That's where it starts oftentimes. It's not the white van that pulls up to the house. It is the grooming. It is the grooming in person. It's the grooming online, through social media, through gaming apps. We need to know what that grooming looks like. And then we need to avoid situations like human trafficking and sextortion. And it starts at home. It starts in your own living room, at your kitchen table, talking to your children, talking to your community, and making sure that they are aware of what it looks like, and start to protect our own communities from this. And that is when we can start pushing back on this horrific crime.
Yeah, I appreciate both of your work so much. It is really, really a travesty that here in this country we have an administration that just loses children. And I appreciate you guys fighting the good fight. I'm sure it's a really, really difficult job to, I'm sure you got a lot of stories that stay with you. But I appreciate you guys not giving up on not just kids, but I know adults are trafficked as well. So I appreciate you guys not giving up on all of these victims and continuing to advocate for them. Dr. Jarrod Sadulski and Ali Hopper with Guard Against Trafficking, thank you guys so much.
Thanks for the opportunity to be here.
Thank you.
Thanks. If you like this clip and you want to see the full episode, click here. And if you want to subscribe to the channel, come on, you know you do. Click here.